So, ladies and gentlemen, we have been playing Path of Exile 2 extensively over the last couple of days. I've put, right now, this particular character, if we go to /played, it's actually got like over 50 hours, meaning that we spent over 50 hours in the campaign, actually like 54 hours, give or take, if I swap over to cameras over here. But the reality is, actual active time playing the campaign is probably closer to like 45 hours, because, you know, I was streaming the whole thing, hanging out with chat, and at the same time trying to figure out what build I was going to do. There was a little bit of grinding off stream as well, but I did play the entirety of the campaign on stream. But I would estimate that the actual active time playing the game was about 45 hours to complete the campaign. Now, whether or not that's going to be acceptable to most players is going to vary from player to player. I think that for some of the community who are blasters from PoE 1 and all that, and I'm not using that term in a derogatory way, but I think that for a lot of those people, you would want to go faster. I do feel like the second time you go through the campaign is going to be a lot faster. I would estimate that for me, it'd probably take me around like 30 hours if I was to run through the campaign again, which I really don't plan to, because my objective with Path of Exile 2 is actually to just kind of like have my one character for the campaign and just enjoy that, because as much as I love PoE 2, I'm not exclusively playing PoE 2. There are other games that I'm playing that I'm paying attention to. Like, to give you guys an idea, you might be like, oh my god, you only just reached maps, you absolute noob. Yeah, because I've also been playing another game at the same time, which is Hell Is Us, playing that on maximum difficulty, and that also takes up a lot of my time as well. But I've been enjoying the experience at a slower pace. It's one of the advantages of playing solo self-found, is that I'm not really racing with anyone. I'm just taking my time. And I enjoy playing solo self-found because I really don't want to engage too much with the economy of the game, because I understand a lot of players love doing trade and that's their whole thing. I actually don't, and what usually ended up happening whenever I was playing trade, because I played a little bit of trade on 0.1, and what happened is, like, I'd pick up something and I'd be really excited about it, and I would like, oh, I should sell this because it will be so much more valuable. Like, for instance, see these two items? We picked these up in today's stream during the campaign. I understand that these are very rare. Actually, I don't even know if I understand just how rare they are, because people always, like, are super excited whenever they pick up one of these. I've never even used one of these, but I know they're valuable as crap, right? And if I was playing trade, just the chances of me ever using this item would be like very, very small, because I would obviously sell it for more exalts and stuff like that. But yeah, that's like a different conversation altogether. Suffice it to say, I really appreciate solo self-found, and that's the way that I prefer playing the game. And at my own pace, I've been having an absolute blast. I really enjoy the campaign. I like the campaign. First time I played in 0.1 and 0.2, I wasn't able to get too far in the campaign because I was trying to do the parry shenanigans with the Huntress, and I didn't enjoy that. And there was also other games that I was playing at the time, so I was like, I'll just, we'll push this on the back burner, we'll come back later. But for 0.3, I made a point that I really wanted to jump in, regardless of how good it was. Turns out that it was actually a really good league. I've been really, really enjoying my time with it. So I already like the campaign, but now we got Act 4. Act 4 is phenomenal. I'm not sure if I liked Act 4 more than Act 2. I understand that is the current community overwhelming sentiment. A lot of people absolutely love Act 4. Sometimes I question myself how much of that is like recency bias and stuff like that. I'm not saying that that is the case, but it could be. But the thing for me is just like, I really liked Act 2 because of the, the parts of the campaign where you're jumping into the Dreadnought and you're assaulting the Dreadnought, and the music that plays while doing that. Whenever you're up in the ramparts with Asala and you're just like assaulting the place and breaking down the walls so that our own version of the Dreadnought can kind of like pass through. Those moments were really, really cool. But anyways, Act 4 is also absolutely phenomenal. Really liked it. A lot of really cool lore. If you actually listen to dialogue, voice acting continues to be absolutely phenomenal. The story is also pretty good, so I enjoyed it. I'm not going to go into too much in depth so that people can enjoy Act 4 for themselves, but suffice to say, I think it's a lot of fun. There's a lot of really cool mechanics in there as well. The whole thing about you going through the islands, the order you're going through the islands, and there's actually a faster way of going about, which will also make it better for follow-up playthroughs of the campaign. So like I kind of feel this is the vibe that I got. If you play Act 4 in the correct order, you're actually going to go through it significantly faster, which is going to be a boon for people that want to blast the campaign and, you know, create like 4 or 5 different characters for every single league. And I think that that is overall a good thing. Now, when it comes to the interludes, it was a little bit more of a mixed bag. So I enjoyed Interlude 1. It was really good because you remember, you know, the characters that are there. And that's not to say that in Interlude 2 you don't remember, but I didn't like the Kerry Crossing map, and that is actually where we are right now. And the reason I didn't like this map is just because it's so absolutely massive. Like, this map is absolutely gigantic. And the worst part is that I felt like some of the quest objectives aren't super clear. So like, for instance, you have a quest here in Act 2 that just goes like, find the Molten Shrine. And because of the fact that there's like a, you know, a little Titan head that you have to get into, and that almost looks like it's an instance, but it's actually not an instance, it's a part of the map. So I kept going around the map trying to locate this Molten Shrine, and I never found it. And the reason I never found it is because you have to go inside the head, because that's actually not an instance, it's not a different map. And I thought that was a little bit confusing, that particular objective. There were other objectives in in the Interlude 3 that I also didn't conclude. Well, one objective in specific that I didn't conclude, which was the this thing right here, the whatchamacallit, the roving wisps. People have told me how you do this now, and it doesn't seem like it's particularly fun, so I don't really care to go back and do it. But, you know, we did pretty much all of the side content of all the interludes and all of that stuff, and for the most part, I thought it was fine. It's just Interlude 2 is the one that I probably like the least. Interlude 1 was a lot of fun, and Interlude 3 was a lot of fun, but Interlude 2 just kind of like fell apart a little bit at the seams, in my opinion, because of just the big massive map and the confusing objectives and whatnot. But, you know, it is what it is. I think overall it's fine, and I definitely prefer this over what we had before of having to play through the campaign on cruel difficulty. This is definitely way more fun. This is definitely a much better step up, and this is definitely something that people, I think that people will enjoy much more than redoing the campaign on cruel, at least from my personal opinion. Now, it's not all sunshine and rainbows. A lot of people have been complaining of performance issues. I myself have actually experienced some performance issues, which is weird because initially when I started playing in Act 1, I felt like performance was actually a little bit better. But then today when we started jumping into the interludes, I was like, oh, actually performance is worse now. So I'm not entirely sure what's going on. I've seen a lot of people, their games have been crashing. I've had one crash, or maybe two. I don't remember throughout the whole thing, which, like I said, 50 plus hours of game time. We've had like 1 or 2 crashes, so my system hasn't really had a lot of problems. That's not to say that there aren't problems. I believe there definitely are. But like, it was actually funny because on one of the crashes that we had, the game crashed the GPU driver and then kept going. It's just like, it's fine. Don't worry about it. We crashed the GPU driver. Keep on going. Just keep moving forward. Don't even worry about it. Just whatever. I thought that was pretty funny, but you know, overall, fantastically enjoyable experience if you don't run into the performance issues, which even I'm having some performance issues, but it's not like unplayable. It's perfectly playable, so it's not an issue for me, but I understand that for a lot of people, it most definitely is. So, couple of more things. The league mechanic is actually really good. I know I'm a little bit scatterbrained with my notes here, but the league mechanic, the Abyss, I thought that was actually really, really fun. Every time that I find myself on, you know, experiencing the league mechanic throughout the campaign, everybody in my chat can attest to this. I was just going through and going like, ooh, take me downstairs. I want to go to the Abyssal Depths. Yay, go down there, kill a bunch of bosses, get some more loot. So that was really fun. I was always hoping that I would get sent down, and I've greatly enjoyed that experience as well. And at this point, a lot of people are saying, okay, so you went through the campaign, you had your fun, all of that good stuff. what build were you playing? Because I understand that a lot of people were playing Deadeyes, which is something that we'll talk about as well. But my choice of build was actually a little bit weird, because initially I wanted to go and I wanted to do the new hammer skill, but I want to play Mercenary because Mercenary is my favorite class. I don't play too much for meta, and you know, I know that a lot of people are like, oh, I want to do this thing, like giga meta out of it, and I get it, but I kind of feel like if you're not able to come up with your own build, personally, I feel that the developers have failed. I understand that you have to have knowledge of the game and all of that stuff, but I kind of feel like you shouldn't have to follow a guide, which is the way that a lot of people have always played Path of Exile 1, and that's fine if you want to follow a guide. I'm not criticizing anybody for following guides or anybody for doing guides. I think that's awesome, but I do feel like if you have a basic understanding of how things work, you should be able to come up with your own build. So my initial objective was to play with Forge Hammer. That's what I wanted. I wanted to play Forge Hammer, and I wanted to play a Mercenary. These are the two things that I knew. And so I played the Mercenary, got the Forge Hammer, wasn't working. Initially it wasn't working. Now we actually got it to work. But while I was leveling, I was like, well, I got to do something, and I wanted to play Mace. I didn't want it to play Crossbow. So what we did was we went to Molten Blast. And Molten Blast is actually the way that the build works now. So we play Molten Blast, and we actually have pretty good clear. As you guys can see, we can just like go right up and just like spam this. And I understand that right now I think I'm level 65 or 66, and this is like level 63 mobs. So we're kind of like, you know, I've just gotten to maps today. Because like I said, we're playing at a pretty chill pace. But like this build's got decent enough clear that we're just like going through. And then I was able to incorporate the usage of the hammer here with the Ancestral War Cry to blow up the hammer, and then we can just like spin around. Okay then. But basically we spin around on top of the fissures, and because the Ancestral War Cry gives us, you know, whenever we move, we get volcanic steps, which basically counts as a slam, and that triggers the Forge Hammer's fissures. That just does a ton of damage, because even just this slight movement of Molten Blast counts as moving, and that counts as slamming. So we're slamming, dealing damage with the thing at the same time. It's just a little bit awkward to kind of like do this movement back and forth, because sometimes your character will get stuck on the boss, and then that doesn't count as moving. But if I'm finding it awkward to move, I can also just put up my shield and like walk around the boss, because that also counts as slamming, and it does a crap ton of damage as well. So it feels pretty good. The combo of Molten Blast coming together with, you know, Forge Hammer and Ancestral War Cry, and all of that benefits from fire damage, and so we just go ahead and we grab a bunch of fire damage nodes here. I mean, stuff that penetrates resistances and then increases magnitude as well as damage with hits against people that are on fire. We get that back here as well. So just like fire is stacking like crazy, and for the beginning of the game, we also get a little bit of projectile damage, a little bit of projectiles adding stun, and then we get some more penetration here. So actually, you know, Molten Blast Mercenary is positioned quite well to take advantage of a lot of things. So then in here we also get some nodes for glory generation, because like I said, for bosses and single target, we are using the Forge Hammer. Oh crap, I just realized I haven't even been showing this properly. My bad. But, you know, we're also getting Forge Hammer. Forge Hammer requires glory in order to work. Yeah, we get those nodes, and we get decent glory generation, and we're always igniting enemies because of the fact that we're doing Molten Blast with fire and flammability and all that good stuff. It's just, usually for smaller enemies, it takes a while to load up on glory, but when you get to like bosses and rare enemies, glory fills up significantly faster. And then on top of it, I also brought down the Hammer of the Gods, just because I like it. This doesn't really deal that much damage in this build. It's just a little flavor skill, because like I said, I like playing stuff that I think is fun, and I'm throwing the hammer, then I'm bringing the hammer down, and then everything explodes, and at the same time I'm shooting fireballs, and I'm leaving corpses behind, and this is all great fun. But yeah, this is the build that we've been playing, and it's just like an absolute blast to do. As you guys can see here, we just like shred through everything. And this was like this all the way until the final boss. Whether or not this scales into maps remains to be seen. But, you know, with this build, we've been just kind of like cruising through. So that obviously also contributes to the enjoyment, how much we enjoyed the campaign and all of that good stuff. Now, a couple of more things. And this is like a big one. I know that a lot of people are concerned with the balance of the league because a majority of players went through and they're playing Deadeye. Now, I kind of feel like this is because, you know, the trees weren't available, so there wasn't a lot of people, at least that's my understanding, that the passive tree wasn't available, and there weren't a lot of people, like, actually doing, you know, starter builds, and because people are... This is just kind of like so ingrained in the community that people expect to follow guides so that don't waste their time, which I can understand. I can understand. Like, I prefer to waste my time and try to make a crazy build that might work, might not work. And I kind of feel like it's doable because respecking is not as expensive anymore. Initially in 0.1, at the very beginning, respecking was expensive as crap. But like right now, I feel like I can probably just afford to respec my whole tree, and it's not even going to be that much. Like, right? Let me go to the... How much would it cost me to refund all? Oh, I have to remove all of the nodes, all of the jewels and stuff. But like, it's... We have how many skill points? We have like, we're level 67, I don't know, we're like 80 skill points or something like that. And it costs about 2,000, so it's 160,000 for a full refund. Then I have 281,000. And you're never really going to do like a full refund, but even if you had to, I don't think it's like prohibitively expensive. I think you can kind of like fix your character up if you make a mistake or the build that you're working on doesn't work. And that's why I prefer doing it like this, and I think it's more fun. But obviously, what ended up happening is because of that situation of people being more used to doing, you know, following guides and stuff like that, and most of the content creators were going Deadeye because that was kind of like the more sure thing, apparently. A lot of people ended up going Deadeye. I think it's like 70% of people are doing Deadeye. And Deadeye is probably a million times better than the build that I'm running on my end. But my build is still clearing reasonably well. We'll see how it does when we get the maps, and we'll see how we fare when we get there. But we're able to go through the campaign where I've seen a lot of people complain about, oh, this build doesn't work or this build doesn't work. And I believe that's the case. There is a balance problem because I'm not saying that every single build should be viable, right? You need to be able to understand how the game functions. But I feel like if somebody wants to go and like, I want to make a build that shoots a fireball and the fireball works, and they understand that they need to stack fire penetration and all of that, and maybe you do multiple projectiles for fire or whatever, and then the fire causes explosions and etc, etc, etc. I feel like that should be a viable way to play the game, assuming that you put your nodes in the right place and all of that. And unfortunately, that doesn't seem to be the case. But that's why we're still in beta. And, you know, it's always going to be a risk. And I'm not saying that that's okay. I'm saying that that is something that I think we're going to be dealing with throughout a lot of the upcoming leagues. Like I said, the Molten Blast thing that I was doing could have not worked. Could have completely backfired. Could have been a complete shit show. And I would be forced to, you know, go back and do grenade, you know, just explosive grenade or something like that, because that is apparently doing really well. I think that's what Zizran is playing, explosive grenade with mortars and stuff like that. So it might not work, it's a chance, but I still find it much more satisfying to take a chance on a build that you're working on than necessarily to follow a guide. But that's also to say that it should be balanced enough that you should be able to just, like I said, pick up the fireball skill, whatever it is. I don't play casters, but pick up the fireball skill, level up a bunch of fire nodes, and make that work somehow. Because that's essentially what I did with Molten Blast. We, you know, picked up a couple of mods, made it work, and it's clearing. But, you know, balance is going to be an ongoing struggle. Now, an interesting thing is that initially, while the league was, when the league started, I was given a much more negative perception of what most content creators thought about the game because of clip channels. It definitely happened because I was like, This is so weird because I saw the Zizarin video. Seems like he liked it. And then every single clip that's posted, he's just like crapping all over the game, right? And then you see clips of Rutu, and he's just like crapping all over the game relentlessly. And then, like, I watched the podcast last night, and Rutu actually said, this is actually really good. I'm enjoying the game a ton. So it's... Clip channels are giving a more negative perception of what the reception of the patch has been than what would be expected, in my personal opinion. But yeah, balance is still a problem. Performance is still a problem. I think that balance is going to continue to be a problem for a long time to come. I mean, look, I played World of Warcraft, I forget for how many years, probably like over 10 years. And since then, I've played it sometimes here and there. And let's just put it like this. World of Warcraft started in 2004. We're currently in 2026. And the balance in World of Warcraft is still absolute dog shit. Okay? For the most part, in World of Warcraft, the balance is still absolute dog shit. And I've also brought this up, which is another MMO that I've played, Final Fantasy XIV. Final Fantasy XIV is actually, when I was playing it at least, actually has pretty good balance across the board. But what ends up happening is that a lot of the classes feel very homogenous. They feel very samey. That is the inherent problem that you get to with balance. I don't know how balanced PoE 1 was. Maybe some people can say, oh, it was perfectly balanced, flawless, like no issues. Maybe that was the case. I don't know. But what I'm saying is usually once you get to a place where things are too balanced, things also get too homogenous. So it's very hard to achieve perfect balance while still achieving a certain level of fun. And that is going to be an ongoing process with Path of Exile 2, but I do feel like people should express like, hey, what the fuck? I made this build and it's complete dog shit, and it shouldn't be. It should work. It should just work. So, assuming again that you know the basics of how to build and stuff like that. But yeah, that's the balance stuff. I don't think that took away almost any enjoyment for me personally, but I understand it for a lot of people. They get a little bit more competitive about it. They're like, well, what the crap? I want to play my class with this build, and Deadeye's over there just like going crazy. It's like, yeah. At the same time, I also feel that probably at this point, there has to be somebody at GGG that they're just like the biggest fans of Legolas, and they're just like, hell yeah, Deadeye domination, bro. Sometimes it happens, some devs, they just have like their favorite children, and the favorite children, they get more candy than the rest of the children. It's just the way that it goes. Now, another thing that I would like to point out is with drops. So I feel that when it comes to currency, things have been significantly better because, like, look, I'm still very much kind of like a noob when it comes to PoE 2, but like I managed to accrue quite a bit of currency, and again, we're playing solo self-found, so no trade, no shenanigans, and we still got like quite a bit of currency, right? I feel like this is somewhat decent for a player of my caliber, which is not that good. So currency drops overall have actually been pretty good. Now the problem is rune drops. Where are my runes? I forget what my runes are. Over here. Rune drops. Brother, what is going on with these runes? I literally have one glacial rune. One. I have one glacial rune, bro. Why? What is going on with the glacial runes? What is this ice shortage that I've been experiencing? Okay? For the better part of Act 4, and all of the interlude acts, I was running around with all resistances capped except cold because I didn't have glacial runes. Like, there's something off about the balance. People have been telling me that it's because of these stat runes that nobody uses, and they're right. I ain't touching no goddamn stat runes. Like, what the crap, bro? I want resistances, brother. I want to make sure that I'm capping those resistances, that I'm not getting clapped. I'm not looking to get my cheeks clapped. I'm not playing hardcore. That doesn't mean I like getting clapped, okay, bro? So I want resistances, and it's just not happening. I don't know what's going on. It's just not happening. Now for instance, look at the storm runes. I had six greater storm runes, one glacial rune. And by the way, you might be like, well, that's because you used all of your glacial runes. No. I think I've gotten like 2 or 3 glacial runes dropped of different rarities throughout the whole campaign. Throughout 50 plus hours of campaign, we got like 2 or 3 glacial runes. I don't know what's going on. There's some, I don't know. This reminds me a little bit of seeds in Monster Hunter, because you get like these charm things that you get in Monster Hunter, and that would be seeds. And certain players, whenever they create their character, they would already know, well, I'm never going to get this charm because my seed doesn't allow it. I don't know. It's weird. It's weird. I don't know what's going on there. But yeah, definitely runes should drop more. And the other thing is friggin' support gems, bro. What is that? Like right now, I probably have some because I actually farmed quite a bit today. But even still, like, what the crap? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I have 8 support runes. And by the way, you guys are like, well, yeah, you used all the other ones. Like, no, brother, look at this. There's a bunch of holes in my... Well, actually, I did use a couple earlier. But, like, there were a bunch of holes in my build because I couldn't fill them with runes. That was crazy. And by the way, dropping Greater Jeweler's Orbs in Act 4, peak. Absolute peak. Fantastic job. Good job with that one because, you know, I had never even seen one drop before in 0.1, despite the fact that I put in, I don't know, friggin' 300 hours in that patch, and I'd never seen a Greater Jeweler's Orb drop. The only 4 links I had were from Voling, bro. But then again, I was even a bigger noob back then than I am now, so it is what it is. But yeah, that is, that's a thing. Another change that they've done, since we're on the topic of skills, we're talking about gems, skill gems and stuff like that. One of the things that I'm not a big fan of, and I understand this one's going to be a little bit controversial, one of the things that I'm not a fan of is that you can now equip the same support gem multiple times. Now, I understand if you're a Giga Min-Maxer, this is like, oh, this is so much better now. Yeah, I get it. And I'm not saying that the way that I think about this is the right way, but I liked the restrictions of not being able to do that because I felt like I had to think more about how to properly optimize my build. I'd be like, oh, I can't put the fire damage in here because I already put the fire damage in there. And by the way, should I put the fire damage in this skill instead of putting in this one? Decisions. And then the Gemling Legionnaire, which is the class I'm playing now, also had the Ascendancy I'm playing now. I'm sorry, I need to get with the lingo. Also had like another advantage because they could kind of like break that rule a little bit, right? I think that was a thing that the Gemling Legionnaire could do. And now they're just like, nope. Now your thing is just like your gems are powerful. I don't even know if Gemling Legionnaire was the best ascendancy for what I'm trying to do, but it looked good, so I went with that. But yeah, I don't know how I feel. I mean, I do know how I feel. I don't like the fact that you can now use the same support multiple times. But at the same time, it's not something that bothers me tremendously. It's just I prefer the way that it was before. But I don't know, I guess most people prefer it this way. You guys can let me know about that. But yeah, besides that, another thing that I really, really enjoyed, the changes to block. I understand that nobody gives a fuck about this, like probably nobody cares about how block works or stops working, but I've always liked shields. And I really appreciate the fact that GGG is trying to incorporate active blocking, even if they're still not there yet, not by a long shot, in my opinion. But this is a huge improvement, the fact that you can now just, like, block almost everything. Not exactly everything, but almost everything. I think that that is a good change. Because before, I used to, like, put up my shield and then pray to Atsiri that she would block the hit for me or something, because I would not know if things would be able to be blocked or not. And I think a lot of that came about because of the way that parry was working, because it was very, very inconsistent. I remember because I actually played a parry a little bit at the beginning of the previous league. So yeah, it was very, very inconsistent. But I'm really happy with the way blocking. Excuse me. Friggin' allergies. I'm really happy with the way that blocking works now, which is much, much better. And then finally, something very important for us controller enjoyers, and GGG, you guys really need to get on this because there's no way that this can be that hard. I want to be able to use mouse to sort my inventory because, like, when I'm playing the game, I like controller. Controller's fun. I have a lot of fun playing on controller, but when I'm sorting out my inventory, controller is a fucking nightmare. It is beyond the nightmare. It is so bad. I want to, like, friggin' smash my face against the wall or something, or do something even worse, because it's just terrible. Like, I just want, like, listen, it can't be that hard for me to just, like, pick this item up over here and bring it over here. And I know it's not hard because it's already working. Like, look, I can already click things in the UI and the mouse works. Like, I just can't click everything. Like, I can click these things, but I can't click this thing. Come on, man. Like, help us out, man. Throw us a bone. Because, like, we love playing the game on controller, but inventory management on controller, just, like, absolute nightmare, bro. Absolute nightmare. I probably see that's the reason why, probably one of the reasons why I also have like 50 plus hours. It's just me fiddling through controller menus and like, deposit this, break that, just like trying to fiddle around with it. But at least kudos, because now when there are stashes outside, like when we had in Act 3, we can actually just deposit stuff to the stash, which we weren't able to do before. Like, you guys with mouse and keyboard have no idea, but like we would be in Trial of the Secuma, and we'd be like, oh, let me put some stuff in my stash. And you just start doing it like you usually do, where you come to the stash, you select the item, you press triangle, and you do that for a bunch of items. Then you press circle to exit out, and you see all the items fall to the ground. You're like, fuck, that was so bad. So thank God that doesn't happen anymore. But yeah, I'm going to go and I'm going to do some maps and get a vibe on how mapping feels with my build and how the mapping experience is, and I'll probably make another video after that talking about what that's been like. But the campaign, absolutely phenomenal. Gets better and better. I love playing through the campaign once. Not sure I would enjoy playing through the campaign twice in the same league, so that might be a problem that you guys still need to sort out. Not exactly sure what the solution is, but definitely playing through the campaign twice is way better now than it was in 0.1 because we don't have to do the cruel stuff and all of that. But yeah, that's going to be it for this video. If you guys enjoyed it, hit the like button, subscribe, on notification icon, all that jazz. We'll see you guys in the next one. Stay strong, stay safe. Peace out.